Krishna 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 Hare Krishna 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 Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo 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 Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Surabhyay Namaha
Om Surabhyaya Namaha
Om Surabhyay Namaha
Om Surabhyaya Namaha
Om Surabhyay Namaha
Om Surabhyaya Namaha
Mukam Karoti Vasalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam Yat Kripatamaham Bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam Hare Krishna. Welcome to our afternoon Bhagavatam class. Continuing to read from Canto number 1, chapter number 1, entitled Questions by the Sages. And I believe it takes 8, huh?
Yes, we do 7.
We did yesterday, 7.
7.
Yes. Veta Tvam Sumya Tat Sarvam Tatvatas Tad Anugrahat Bhuyuhu Snigdhasya Shishyasya Guravo Guhyam Api Uta Not Utaha Sravanam UTA. How you get Utaha? Yeah. Vetatvam Somyatat Sarvam
Vedatam Tvam Saumyatat Sarvam
Tatvatastad Anugrahat
Tatvatastad Anugrahat
Bruyu Snigdhasya Shishyasya
Broyo Signadasya Sisasya
Guravo Guhyam Apyuta
Guravo Guhyam Apyuta
Vetatvam Somya Tat Sarvam
Vetatvam Saumyatat Sarvam
Tatvatas Tad Anugrahat
Tatvatastad Anugrahat
Bruyu Snigdhasya Shishyasya
Broyo Signadasya Sisasya
Guravo Guhyam Apyuta
Guravo Guhyam Apyuta
Vetatvam Somyatat Sarvam
Vetatvam Saumyatat Sarvam
Tatvatastad Anugrahat
Tatvatastad Anugrahat
Bruyu Snigdhasya Shishyasya
Broyo Snigdhasya Sisasya
Guravo Guhyam Apyuta
Guravo Guhyam Apyuta Veta.
You are well conversant.
You are well conversant.
Tvam. Your honor.
Your honor.
Somya.
Soumya.
One who is pure.
One who is pure
And simple.
and simple.
Tat. Those. Sarvam.
Sarvam.
All. Tatvataha.
Tatvataha.
In fact. Tat. There. Anugrahat. By the favor of. Bruyuhu. Will tell.
Snigdhasya.
Of the one.
Of the one
Who is submissive. Shishyasya,
Sisasya
of the disciple,
of the disciples,
Guravaha,
Guruvaha,
the spiritual masters,
the spiritual masters,
Guhyam,
Guhyam,
secret,
secret,
Api Uta,
Apyuta,
endowed with.
endowed with.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
So this is a dialogue taking place in a very auspicious place called Naimisharanya, and the sages are speaking, or they are addressing Sutta Goswami. And because you are submissive, your spiritual masters have endowed you with all favors bestowed upon a gentle disciple. Therefore you can tell us all that you have scientifically learned from them. Kindly repeat after me. And because you are submissive,
And because you are submissive,
your spiritual masters
your spiritual masters
have endowed you
have endowed you
with all favors
with all favors
bestowed upon
bestowed upon
a gentle disciple.
a gentle disciple.
Therefore you can tell us
Therefore you can tell us
all that you have
all that you have
scientifically learned
scientifically learned
from them.
from them.
Report. The secret of success in spiritual life is in satisfying the spiritual master and thereby getting his sincere blessings. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has sung in his famous 8 stanzas on the spiritual master as follows. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master. Only by his satisfaction can one please the personality of Godhead, and when he is dissatisfied, there is only havoc on the path of spiritual life. Havoc means problems, difficulties. Obstacles. Yeah. It is essential, therefore, that a disciple be very much obedient and submissive to the bona fide spiritual master. Srila Sutta Goswami fulfilled all these qualifications as a disciple, and therefore he was endowed with all favors by his learned and self-realized spiritual masters, such as Srila Vyasadeva and others. The sages of Naimisharanya were confident that Srila Sutta Goswami was bona fide. Therefore they were anxious to hear from him. Translation again. And because you are submissive, your spiritual masters have endowed you with all the favors bestowed upon a gentle disciple. Therefore, you can tell us all that you have scientifically learned from them. Some important points mentioned both in the verse and also in the purport given by Srila Prabhupada. Here there's reference to not only one spiritual master, but many spiritual masters. It is not uncommon, and in many ways it is also encouraged that one receive instructions or guidance from many spiritual masters. Of course, the Vaishnava etiquette is that one accepts one formal spiritual master as Diksha Guru, and one can have many Shiksha Gurus, isn't it? Especially in a society like the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, where in some places, or for some disciples, they rarely get to see their spiritual master, sometimes not at all. I mean, this happened also during Prabhupada's time. Some devotees who became initiated by Srila Prabhupada, they never saw him. They never, they did. But they became faithful disciples and received the mercy of Srila Prabhupada because they had these qualities mentioned here. Two of the qualities: one, submissive. Being submissive. That means being eager to receive instructions from the spiritual master. We can judge a disciple by how close or how far he stays away from the spiritual master. Some devotees prefer to stay far away because Guru Maharaj might tell me something, might give me an instruction. But a disciple should actually, whenever it is possible, sometimes it's not physically possible, especially when we have an international society, especially during the pandemic, during COVID-19, nobody can travel, or traveling is very difficult. So submissiveness, same instruction Krishna gives. Tadvidi pranipatena. Pranipat, having a mood and mentality of humility, understanding, knowing that there's many things I don't know. Many things I don't know. Practically everything I don't know. So that is one of the qualities. And the other one is gentleness. Gentle. Gentle in behavior, gentle in speaking. There is that very famous example that we find, which illustrates this point very nicely in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. We know that Ishvarapuri was the spiritual master of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Ishvarapuri had many disciples. One of those disciples was, who were some of the disciples of Ishvarapuri? Govinda, who actually later became the menial, humble servant of Lord Chaitanya. It means that actually this Govinda was the godbrother, Guru Bhai. He was the godbrother of Lord Chaitanya. Then another disciple, Ramachandra, just about forgot. Ramachandra Puri. Ramachandra Puri. You've heard that story, yeah. Very nicely illustrating the point here. Out of so many disciples, the foremost, who was gentle, submissive, very nice, so ideal as a servant that that his spiritual master Ishvara Puri told him, "When I leave my body, you go and serve Lord Chaitanya." And of course, the story is narrated that because he served so nicely his spiritual master, Ishvara Puri gave him all, what better blessing and benediction than to become a servant of Lord Chaitanya, even though he's your Guru Bhai, even though he's having the same spiritual master as yourself. Because normally one doesn't serve one's godbrother as Guru, but actually Govinda was doing that. And of course, the opposite happened to Ramachandra Puri, who, because he had a very bad habit of finding fault finding, when he came to Jagannath Puri, he would invite devotees to take prasadam, and he would make them sit, and he said, "Take some more, more." He would force them to take prasadam. Of course, many brahmacharis probably would like that. But then what he would do is that after they would take so much prasadam, because he was forcing them, he would criticize, "See, you're taking so much prasadam." He would criticize them.
You are Tyagi or what?
Huh?
You are a Tyagi or a
Yeah,
Bhogi?
yeah. What kind of Tyagi? Bhogi. And then when he was in Jagannath Puri, the devotees, because they, you can understand the mood and mentality of somebody quite quickly. If somebody is gentle or not gentle, if somebody is critical or not critical. So devotees, especially when they started to hear that he was criticizing Lord Chaitanya, and he was telling that he was telling that in the room where Lord Chaitanya is staying, so many ants are there. That means that he's eating too many sweets. Logical, right? The Prabhupada explained, ants are everywhere. Not only where they're sweet. So, Ramachandra Puri was so, audacieux. That's French, actually. Audacieux means, the English word doesn't come. But he had the audacity, I don't know the adjective, he had the audacity of criticizing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when the devotees heard that, my God, they became very afraid, and because he criticized Lord Chaitanya started taking only half of his prasadam. So the devotees became even more, my God, Lord Chaitanya is fasting because of this guy. So they were all very disturbed. How long is he going to stay in Jagannath Puri? So Lord Chaitanya was very ideal by accepting that chastisement, and he just patiently waited, and then after some time Ramachandra Puri left. The devotees were very relieved and very happy, and then Lord Chaitanya started his normal prasadam. Now you can take full prasadam. So Srila Prabhupada explains in the purports to that Leela how this is an example of two individuals. Two were the disciples of the same Guru. Yet this Ramachandra Puri, because he was there in the last moments of his spiritual master, Ishvara Puri's leaving his body, and he dared to actually advise him, because Ishvara Puri was, he was crying out in a very humble way, because he was such an advanced devotee. Oh my Lord, I've wasted my life. I've not realized, I cannot attain your lotus feet. In this kind of very humble way he was. And then Ramachandra Puri dared to tell him, don't worry, Guru Maharaj, just take shelter of Brahman. Just take shelter of Brahman. He advised him to take shelter of, When Ishvara Puri heard this, he actually practically cursed him that, get out of my sight. I don't want to see you anymore, because it's blasphemy. Means he didn't understand anything about Bhakti, Ramachandra Puri. And so in this way, because he was in this way ostracized, he was sent away, he was rejected by his spiritual master, therefore he did not get the mercy, and this is the point being made here, that the secret of success, the very first line in the purport, the secret of success is to please, not to displease. The secret of success is to serve, not to avoid service, but to serve the orders of Guru, or to serve the spiritual master in different ways. Because in the same way that we attract the favor, we attract the attention of Krishna by pleasing him, by serving him. So the same principle is there, isn't it? So Govinda, because he served with all humility and all gentleness his spiritual master till the very end, so he received. That's what happens actually when one serves Guru, or when one serves Krishna or Krishna's mission. Then Krishna or Guru will give some special instruction. Otherwise, if you stay 100 miles away and never communicate with your Guru, what instruction he can give you? He doesn't know where you are. He doesn't. So, so in this way, Govinda, we can see when, after his spiritual master Ishvara Puri passed away, then he took up the order of his Guru Maharaj, and he immediately went to Jagannath Puri. He arrived in Jagannath Puri, found where Lord Chaitanya was residing, went there, offered his obeisances, gave the news of Ishvara Puri's departure, and then he told Lord Chaitanya, I have come to Jagannath Puri to become your servant. Lord Chaitanya said, no. How you can be my servant? We have the same Guru. You are my godbrother. You cannot serve me. Govinda folded his hands and he explained that, my dear Lord Chaitanya, this is order of Guru Maharaj. if I cannot execute the order of my Guru Maharaj, then I might as well not live. And so he explained in this way, in a very humble way, and Lord Chaitanya, of course, could understand that yes, he is such a sincere devotee that he understands this foremost of principles, to abide by especially some specific instruction given by Guru Maharaj, isn't it? So he accepted the service of Govinda. Otherwise, it would not actually be there. And Govinda, as we know, was always looking after the interest of Lord Chaitanya. He was putting the interest of Lord Chaitanya before his own interest. There's some nice stories to that effect. So here the sages of Naimisharanya, they are recognizing in the person of Sutta Goswami such a personality who is very learned, who is very humble and gentle, and therefore they are humbly requesting to hear from him. And of course, in the pages to come, Sutta Goswami will when there is an inquisitive audience, when people want to hear, when people want to know, when people want to understand, then this facilitates or helps the person speak. If everyone has their eyes closed and sleeping, after some time the speaker will maybe snap his fingers or something. So there needs to be, in order for a good, healthy exchange to take place, the audience must be eager to hear, and the speaker also must be eager to speak to such an audience. Yeah. And because you are submissive, your spiritual masters have endowed you with all the favors bestowed upon a gentle disciple. Therefore you can tell us all that you have scientifically learned from them. Is there anything on this?
I have heard that this Ramchandra Puri was a disciple of Madhavendra Puri.
No. Oh, 1 second. Govinda was, of course.
Yeah, Govinda was Teshwar Puri.
Yes, that is true, because Lord Chaitanya
he used to
interacted with him as his senior.
Yes.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Yes. So as a senior, well, so-called senior, but he had made that
Yes.
that mistake of yes. Good point. Any other point? Mataji's having a point.
बोलते हैं हम वो करने नहीं कर सकते कभी कभी, तो वो क्या करेंगे इसके लिए?
He is asking Maharaj that sometimes what instructions are given by our Guru, our spiritual master, that cannot be totally done. Then in that condition, what should we do?
Cry.
Cry. ये महाराज बोल रहे हैं कि उस समय रोना चाहिए कि हम नहीं कर पा रहे हैं.
We may not always immediately be able to carry out instruction of Guru. It's like that famous story of the South Indian Brahmana who was holding the book upside down. Or he could not read. But because Guru had told him the success is one's sincere and honest effort to actually fulfill the desire or the order of the spiritual master. One may be able to or may not be able to, but generally one receives an order from the spiritual master which is also possible. Yeah.
One question, Maharaj.
Yes.
Related to Gurukul.
Related to Gurukul.
Yes.
It's a good place to ask questions about Gurukul.
I am talking about today's education system.
Modern day education
Yes.
system, yes.
And in Gurukul system, can we teach both education?
Can we teach both education?
Yes, because after reading, taking study in Gurukul,
Yes.
one will be devotee full time or not full time if he had to work in.
After taking education in Gurukul, one may remain full-time devotee or not.
Okay.
No.
Or he can become a householder.
So
If he becomes a householder, then how he can manage his life without that material education. If he has some material education also, then he can work accordingly to the world and do his daily life activities and earn some money for his livelihood. Is asking.
That's your question.
yes, then this is good to
Give them education or
both give education.
If we understand that modern education is far from being ideal education, because it is those who are teaching such knowledge. Actually, it doesn't it doesn't fall in the category of knowledge, actually. See, the point is that this question is asked very often. Is it sufficient just to teach about, in Gurukul, traditional knowledge? What if somebody, which is the situation for most people, after their studies, they will get married and they'll have to adjust somewhere, somehow in the material world. But the point is that we as devotees and we as ISKCON society are trying to create a situation where one doesn't have to end up working in a factory, where one doesn't have to work surrounded by non-devotees. Of course, that may not be immediately possible. So many of our devotees, not so many, the majority. The majority of our devotees, that's what they're doing. Those who are householders, they're working in a non-devotee situation with non-devotee colleagues, etc., etc. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada understanding that this was not ideal, wanted that we create communities whereby our devotees can be engaged to earn their livelihood. And also in some of the purports of the 7th canto, the Srimad Bhagavatam, I believe chapter 11, chapter 11 or chapter 13, one of those chapters, Srila Prabhupada explains that the natural occupation, the natural way for which householders can earn money is right here in the country. Farming, agriculture. Agriculture is meant to be, and of course we very well understand that the majority of, let's say, common people, ordinary people, they don't like this idea. And unfortunately, the majority of our own devotees also don't like this idea. And that's a problem. That's a problem of not understanding our philosophy. In so many ways, and so many times, Srila Prabhupada explained how not to become entangled in modern day way of living. Don't become attracted to, he called it the
Ugra karma.
Ugra karma, machine civilization. So in Gurukul we should teach only what is the standard books of knowledge that teach not only about spiritual subject matter. This is a misunderstanding. It's not that Gurukul is teaching one only about spirituality. In Gurukul, there are many subjects which deal with, for example, natural agriculture, Vedic agriculture.
Arthasastra, Nyayasastra.
So many different shastras are there that cover both the material and the spiritual Swadharma, isn't it?
Maths, these all things, maths.
Yeah, it's called Vedic mathematics.
Vedic mathematics.
Yeah. If you want to be, if you want to become an astrologer, then you need to know about mathematics. But the simple and very scientific way or system is actually there in the Shastra, what they call Vedic mathematics, which is unknown in modern day, society, modern day educational system. So we still have not understood, we have not realized as devotees that actually all that we need to learn is actually there in the Shastra.
Yes.
And because if, for example, I had the personal example, one devotee who had graduated from Gurukul in Mayapur, he was still quite young, he was in his early 20s. Then after graduating from Gurukul in Mayapur, he took up some other studies. It's like one can take up any kind of study at practically any time in life. Even at the age of 74, 75, one can be a student. Yeah, because that's the understanding. Vedic culture is education is life, and life is education, isn't it? And because you can take courses online, there's so many different ways to take courses, so better to stick to actually what is meant to be the format or formula in Vedic teaching or Vedic education to learn. And we don't want to encourage our devotees to be out there in a very unfavorable atmosphere for practicing Krishna consciousness, And that's, of course, something else we have yet to understand, how we as a society should be, leaders in our society, beginning from temple presidents up to all the levels of leadership, should be emphasizing and focusing, especially now, with what is happening all over the world. This is like the the opportunity, the time to take up seriously this instruction given by Srila Prabhupada. And we know when we actually have land, when we have cows, there are so many, from morning till evening, there are things to do. Nobody will get bored. Of course, if one wants to just avoid work, well, yeah, you won't take that service. So in the Gurukul that we need to establish, and that we are beginning to establish in different places, we should be very clear, we should be very strict in sticking to the traditional Vedic curriculum. So many books of knowledge are there. Yeah. Yes? Last point.
Maharaj, my question is that in this doing of cow and agriculture, the Vaisyas do this. And what about the Kshatriya? How they can be engaged in their service? And by going in politics or somewhat like that, or how? Why that I want to know.
You want to know, you understand about Vaishyas and you're asking about Kshatriyas, what they will do.
Yes, not on the level of a Vaishnava. Some from
Correct.
their birth they are as a Sudra. In Kali Yuga all are Sudra, but due to when we get education, we can behave according to our gunas. We can act as a Sudra, even Vaisya also, even Kshatriya also, and even Brahman also. So what for the Kshatriyas? How they can be engaged?
All of the different different duties and responsibilities of Kshatriyas. There are three main areas for Kshatriyas. They are giving protection to society in different ways, both physical protection and also protecting dharma, the principles of dharma, by enacting different laws that people will follow dharma. Protection, administration, by organizing society, by, as Prabhupada would explain, if somebody claims to be a Christian, then he should follow
The rules.
according to the rules of Christianity, etc. like that. So administration is a very big area. Administration also has to do with law and order, lawyers, judges, all of these things. And then welfare, arranging things in such a way that in times of calamities, people have
Enough food and
Yeah.
grains.
bringing relief and help to people in times of difficulty. So in each of the Varnas, there are many subdivisions. Just like a Brahmana. Brahmana is not only somebody who's on the altar.
Yes.
Yeah,
Lots of work.
yeah. There's so many. Actually, he might be a teacher. He's especially a teacher, actually. But Brahmanical activity also is cooking. Cooking is a Brahmanical activity, like this. Advising in government, the kings would have advisors.
Ministers.
A minister, yeah. So there, each of the categories have many subheadings, so to speak, and these are the things that one learns actually
In Gurukul.
in Gurukul. But in our case, because majority of us we are already graduated, so to speak, means our time to go to Gurukul.
Politics. It is wrong, Maharaj, for the service to manage. So it is
Your question: if a devotee, after learning so many things, if he goes into politics, whether it is wrong?
It is wrong or it is correct.
Um,
If his guru advises, if he asks take permission from guru.
Even during Prabhupada's time, Prabhupada blessed devotees to actually enter into politics. Even ISKCON had its own political movement that was called In God We Trust movement, and there were devotees running for office. So Yes, normally one should get blessings from one's spiritual master, and one can take up. We need actually devotees who are taking up service in different areas. Yeah. You're interested in politics?
Not Maharaj.
Just curious.
I'm interested in making such